continue on with our cart, we can add to cart, and we've successfully dealt with the username issue, at least for now. So we want to build a cart method, and then we can use scaffolding to generate most of our cart page. So creating the view won't be that much work, although we'll have to customize it a bit. So we now we're in our controller, after we add an item to the cart, we're calling redirect to action cart. Well, we need to make that method. So I'll scroll down to the bottom of my controller. So after our get cart username method, we'll create a new method called cart. So this is just a regular controller method. It returns an iAction result. So what we want to do here is figure out who the user is. We'll put our comments in. We'll query the database to get the user's cart items. Load a view and pass the cart items to it for display. So these are the three things we want to do in this method. So to get the cart username, what would be the simple way we can do this? Yeah, we could read it from the session. That would work after we add an item to cart. That would work if we just read it from the session variable. That would be one way of doing it. There's one problem with that. It would work now, but also keep in mind, we also have a cart button right here in our navigation bar. So if I leave the site and come back or close my browser, my session is gone. So if I call it when I click the cart button, the session variable will be empty. So instead, there's one other way we could get the username. Arya? Yeah, we'll just call the function we just wrote, because this also, Doris, it has a check of what to do if it's null. If we just call the session variable, it doesn't get set. So we'll just call our method that we just wrote, because that takes care of the scenario that there is nothing in the session yet. And if there is, we check, are they logged in, yes or no, and then we set the session variable inside the method. So now we'll use our database context class. We'll use the cart object. Now we don't want all the items in the cart table for all users. We only want this user's items. So we're going to create a where clause where we pass in the username, and then we convert it to a list. So this will give us all the items in the cart table for the current user. And then we just do our standard return view, and we'll take our cart items we're creating here, and we'll want to put that inside of our return view statement. Load the view and hand it the data so we can show it to the user. We may need to make one or two small changes or additions to this, but this would be the basics. So I'm going to build, and then we can use scaffolding to create a cart page. We don't have to build it from scratch. So I'll right-click my cart method. And we want to add a view. Sorry, I'll try to move this. So it's asking which template do we want? Do we want an empty page or a template for create, delete, details, edit, or list? What is the cart page going to look like? Yeah, it's going to be a list, right? We want to display all the items that we're fetching on line 113 in our query. And which model, so we're making a list of what kind of model. Yeah, we're using the cart model. So our view is called cart. It uses the list template and the cart model. So that will automatically give a model declaration on line 1 of IEnumerable project name.models.cart. And we'll make sure our layout page is checked off. So the models cart, the template is list. So I'll click add. And then I'll try it in both browsers. I'll go back to Firefox where I'm logged in, and I'll also try my cart link in Chrome where I'm anonymous. And then we'll see. So here's what we get. We just get a scaffolded page with create, new, and our edit details and delete links.
You have put in the bottom selection where you have to set the restruct file.
No, just pick a layout. Just check the use layout page. So now in Chrome, I can click on my cart link. I'm logged in. My server stops. So I'm going to try my cart link in both browsers. So I'm logged in here. If I go to my cart, so as a logged in user, these items are attached to my email address. So even after restarting the server, it still finds these items. In Chrome, if I go to my cart's empty. Because I'm not logged in, this session variable doesn't persist. The session gets destroyed every time I rebuild. It wipes everything out. So now I'll try the add to cart. We'll also have to deal with the fact, notice, our cart's not perfect. It shows things like my username. The product name isn't actually displayed here. So we'll need to make a few changes to this. But I'm going to go back to put something else in my cart. So hopefully we get directed off to the cart page now. We no longer get an error. So I'll put something else in my cart. So when I'm logged in, it just adds my newest product onto the items that were already in the table. If I go to Chrome and try to shop, so now I've got one item, and here you can see the GUID. Obviously, we want to remove this. Where? That's a profoundly confusing result. I have to think about that for a minute. Even if you log out and log back in, wow. Try the exact same thing in a different browser. I'm curious you get the same result. So we have to make a few changes here. We have a cart page, it's not exactly fully featured. What are some things we would need to change here? Okay, we want to hide the username. Yep. Yep, we want to remove the create. Cool. Yeah, okay, so we'll remove those. We'll leave delete, and then we'll need to make delete functional. There's one also very obvious thing missing from here. No, we've got quantity here. Okay, yes, we'll leave that one for today. It's going to be a bit more complicated, but yes, the ability to. But there's no checkout button, but there's one really important piece of information missing. The product names are blank. So showing someone a shopping cart with a whole bunch of products with no names is never useful. So we need to figure out, why is this not here? So the reason this isn't here is because product, if we think of the relationship between product and cart, if we look at our so here's the relationship between product and cart. One product has many carts. So we could all buy the same product. It's one product ID, but we're each putting it into a different cart. So there's a one-to-many relationship. In our shop controller, when we select the list of cart objects, it doesn't automatically include the parent data. So if we want to be able to display information about the products, we're going to need to modify this query a little bit. So we want to query the cart, but we also need to include so we need to add this before our where clause. Include the parent data from the product table. Now, when I do this, I get a red underline. That's okay. We're just missing a reference needed in order to do this. So add what's highlighted, and then use the helper. It's going to be an entity framework. Yeah, we need to make, if we make a reference to Microsoft.Entity Framework Core, we can now add our include. So if we build and refresh the cart page, the product names should show up now. So the parent data is not included by default. If you want to add it, we need to We're basically like doing a join statement, simpler version of doing a join statement. So make sure you accept use the helper to add the reference. If you don't get the helper and you need that manually, the reference is this one on line 8. That allows us to include the parent data in our query. So I'll build and try my cart again, and hopefully the product name's easier when I'm logged in because my cart is persistent this way. So if I refresh it and we wait for the new version to load, our product name should show up here. Then we can start making the other changes we talked about. Entity Framework Core. So now I just refresh my cart page, product names are here with that include. So we can get rid of the things we talked about. We can get rid of username. We can get rid of create new, edit in details. We can add a checkout button. We probably also want to, as we're looping through and displaying these items, we should probably also calculate a running total and show the user how much, what the total value of their cart is. And maybe what I'll do is move the product names. Typically they're at the beginning. So we'll maybe move these over here. Well, product name, quantity, price. So if we go to our views and shop, here's our cart page that we got scaffolded. So I'm going to take out the create new. I'll also add some striping to the table so it's a little easier to see. I'll add table striped and table hover. We said we don't need the username, so we can just delete that. Heading and column. So I'll delete my heading and I'll delete the column. So now the columns say quantity, price, and product in the headings, and the individual rows are the same. I'm going to move my product column to be the first column. The product name should probably be first. So I'm just going to move that. So now my headings say product, quantity, price. You don't have to make any of these changes. I'm just trying to make it more polished, make it more like what a real world application would look like. So now my headings say product, quantity, price, and my column rows say name, quantity, price. I also want to add currency formatting here. Rather than showing the prices as raw numbers, we can use a string format. So we'll use Microsoft's weird currency format. This should use the server's regional settings to format based on the culture in the right currency with the right currency symbol, number of decimal places, etc. And I'm going to take out my edit and my details links. So I just have a delete link in the last column. Just going to refresh it for a minute. I'll put the code back up. Just want to see how this looks, if this works. Okay, so it looks a little better, I think. Probably just for formatting, we probably also want to right align these, so it's easy visually to total them up. Usually numbers are right aligned. And then we want to calculate a running total, display it down here, and maybe put a keep shopping and checkout button. And then this page is, we'll also just need to deal with the functionality here. So maybe what I'll do is right align my price columns. And maybe the heading, I'll just make it text center. So I'll center the heading and then I'll right align the price values. So all the decimal places line up. Okay, maybe I want to right align both the heading and my quantity, maybe I'll center those. Both the heading and the row data. We could also, optional if we wanted to, we could make the product names links so the user could click on the product and go to the product detail page. We don't really need to because our product detail page doesn't actually have any other information. There's no like reviews and gallery of images. But if we wanted to, we could make many carts. You can click on the item in your cart and see the full product again before you check out. So now we want to calculate a running total. So we'll need to take the quantity and the price of each item, multiply them together, and then add that as we loop through. So we can show at the bottom a total for the cart. So up at the top, I'm going to create a variable. I'll create a variable called total, and I'll give it a default value of 0.0. Oh, maybe I need to say decimal. Sorry. Create a variable, a decimal variable called total, and we'll initialize it to 0. And inside our loop that we've got starting on line 27, we want to multiply the current quantity times the current price and then add that to our total. I've added line 6. So we can say total plus equals, so keep the current value and add on to it item.quantity times item.price. So each time we display a new item in the cart, we're adding on the subtotal for that item. And then outside our loop, we're going to add a footer row to our table where we can display the total and add a keep shopping and a checkout button. So I've added line 6, then line 28. So we want to update the running total of the whole cart. So down at the bottom, this has to go outside the curly bracket. We're going to add one more row. I'll add an empty 2 columns at the beginning underneath product title, product name, and quantity. And then we'll use our currency format to display our total variable. And then I'm going to add 2 buttons. So we'll put on a link, but I'll style it as a button that says keep shopping. It'll just go to the index method, take us back to the list of categories in the store. Whoops, this is supposed to go inside a last TD tag, sorry. So we'll put on a keep shopping button. So we'll have 2 buttons. One that says keep shopping, takes us back to the main shopping page, and one that says checkout, that will let us carry on. And again, this stuff, so this new row that I've highlighted here, it happens after our closing curly brace, because we don't want this row repeated for every item in the cart. It has to go after all the cart items are displayed. So I'll just save it. We'll have a look at it. We'll see if there's any other changes needed. And then we'll deal with our delete. So something like this. I know it may not be quite production ready, but most of what we need is here. We now have got the total. And if I click keep shopping, it takes me here to continue. Checkout won't go anywhere yet. And now we need to deal with these. So as Francis mentioned, we would normally also be able to change the quantity. We're going to leave that out for today. If we have time to address it later, we will. We may or we may not. So everything in blue is new. So the last item on here we want to do is deal with line 40, which is our delete link. I'm going to change the name of the method. Delete's not very clear. It's not clear that we're just deleting one item from the cart as opposed to deleting the entire cart. So I'm going to change this action from delete, I'll call it remove from cart. And notice it already has an ID parameter built in from the scaffolding. It will pass in the item of this cart ID. The other thing I want to do is add a little JavaScript confirmation here. That if the user clicks delete, rather than it automatically deleting from cart, we give them a little pop-up with an OK and cancel. Are you sure you want to delete this? So we can use a small JavaScript to enable this. So on here, I'll add an on-click event. So we're going to return a method we're going to write called confirm delete. This is especially important in the days of mobile devices. People like me have got fat thumb syndrome. We wind up tapping stuff we don't mean to tap. So before you ever delete anything, make sure the user has an opportunity to say, no, my wide thumb touched the wrong thing. So we'll give them a chance to cancel that delete operation. So now we need to write this function. It's going to be really simple. We've already got a file where we put our front end client-side JavaScript. So we'll want to use that file. I'll just save this. That file lives in here, inside of www.root.js. Visual Studio, when it scaffolded the project, it gives us a site.js. So this is basically, here you go. Write your JavaScript code here. So I want to write a simple JavaScript function. I don't need jQuery or anything complicated. Just want to write a simple function that will pop up a modal dialog box with an OK and a cancel. The OK button returns true. The cancel button returns false. So I only need one line of code here. Anybody know which JavaScript method we can call? It's close. It's like an alert. The problem is an alert only gives you an OK button. There's no cancel button. So there's a similar function to alert, except it also includes a cancel button that will stop whatever operation the user tried to do. Does anybody know what that is? It starts with a C. Sorry, Francis, you said it? Right, we want to confirm. So this is a built-in JavaScript method. Return confirm. So we put in a message, and this will return a Boolean. It returns true if the user clicks OK, so whatever they tried to do just continues. If they click cancel, whatever they tried to do, like clicking a link, that operation's canceled. So handy JavaScript, we can attach this, we should attach this to anything that ever says delete. Yes, this is client side. So we will see this. So this is built in, it's actually included here in our layout file. Here. So it's referenced automatically in the layout, which means all the views that use this layout have access to the script. So anything we want to make publicly available, just throw it in that site.js. If you have a JavaScript that you don't want available globally, you only, let's say, only want it in one view, then I would make a separate JavaScript file in www.root.js. And then just in that one view, you could have a script tag linked to that one. And then it's only available in that one file as opposed to being available everywhere. But Visual Studio already sets up the infrastructure. They've given us the file, they've given us the link. You can just write your code in the site.js. So now my delete link still won't go anywhere. It should give me a 404, but clicking it should at least give me the confirmation. So if I click cancel, and I probably want a question mark in here. Okay, cancel, nothing happens. If I click OK, well, it's looking for my remove from cart method, which we don't have yet. So, but you can see it continues. So it's really simple for us to add any client-side JavaScript. So we should be able, we can write this method, it'll be pretty simple. So we want to remove the item from the cart and refresh the page. Redirect them to reload the cart page with that item gone. So if we go to our shop controller, we're going to need to create a remove from cart method that takes a parameter called ID. That will pass in this number, this cart ID. We'll then delete it from here and refresh the page. So this method will be simpler than our add to cart. So our method needs an ID because we're not deleting everything in the cart table. We're only deleting that one product for this one user. So we'll go and we'll fetch that item. We'll call single or default because we just want one single record. And we'll pass in the ID. So then we're going to call remove with our cart model. And then we need to commit that change to the database by calling save changes. So go fetch the object we want, remove it from the list of cart objects, and call save. And then we will redirect to the updated cart page where the deleted item should be gone. So we're actually going to reload the same page we were already on. There is no remove from cart page. We don't need a page for this. We just need to update the database and reload the page we were on before. So now if we try our remove from cart or delete link, if we say OK to that little JavaScript confirmation, page should do a quick refresh and that item should be gone. Try to position this where you can still see the code. And also our total should get updated. So if I delete my $1,000 desktop, my cart total should go from 1859 to 859. So I'll delete. If I say cancel, nothing happens. If I delete and click OK, now that item's gone and my total's been updated. No, it's not right, is it?
Oh, we should give it two.
Oh, yes, it is right. I have two. Well, I guess we could put on like a subtotal, like an item total column, but so this item here, this $1,000 item, item ID 13, if I rerun this query, this last record should now be gone because I've removed it. So I no longer have card ID 13. It goes from 12 to 14. So my remove seems to work. We probably should add the ability to update a quantity, but again, I think we'll leave that out for today. We've got time to address it next week. We'll address that next week. So those are the last two methods. The cart that fetches the items and displays them, and remove. I'll leave those up for a minute if you need to check them. So if we're making our little checklist, we've done this. We've built our cart page. We can remove from the cart. We've done this. We've done this. We've figured out how we're going to attach items to a user. Even when they're not logged in, we're going to use our GUID class. We've dealt with number one, where we were hard coding the username. So that we're going to leave these for next week if we can, indicating, so we might want to put a little number, a little badge in the nav bar beside the cart, so we can look at doing that. So that brings us to checkout. So we're going to want a checkout method and view. Oh, in the view? Yeah, line 40. So that link was here, but it said delete. The action was delete. So I changed the action so that it calls our remove from cart method. And I also added that little delete confirmation. This isn't essential, the on-click piece. It'll still work without it. But yeah, I changed. The scaffold said delete here. So we replaced that with remove from cart. Yep, because it was looking for a delete method, and we don't have a method with that name. So we've got this checkout button. If you click it right now, it doesn't go anywhere because we don't have a checkout method. So we need a checkout method and a checkout view. The first part of these are fairly simple. We can just kind of scaffold this. So if we make a new method called checkout, we just want to load a checkout page. So we'll just return a view. And on the checkout page, we want to ask the user for their information. And fortunately, we can use scaffolding to build the view. So I'll build. So our checkout view is going to largely be based on our order model. So here are the fields in our order model. An ID, well, we don't have that yet. We won't have that until we save. The date, well, we can automatically, we'll just use the current date and time. The user doesn't have to give us the date of their order. The user ID, well, if they're logged in, we already have that. The total, we can figure that out. But here are the fields we want from them. We want basically these fields. Sorry. From first name down to phone. So we want their first name, their last name, address, city, province, postal code, and phone number. So our checkout page, we want to give them a form that uses this model. So we can scaffold a form called checkout based on the create. That'll make an empty form, and it will have all of these fields in it based on the order model. So in my shop controller now, if I right click my method name, I can pick add view. I want the create template because we want to give the user an empty form and ask them to fill it out with their information. So the class this will be based on is our order class, our order model, because it has all the fields we need to get from our user. And we want to use our layout page. So we'll just add it. We're about due for a break. I need to step out for a couple minutes. But we should be able now to click on our cart and then click the checkout button and we'll get a form. We'll need to modify it a little bit. So if I check out here, we'll see what the scaffold gives us and what changes, we can talk about what changes we're going to need to make. Here. Excuse me. What is happening to my site? Well, that was painful. So here's our checkout page. It's got a field for order date. Well, we're going to remove that got a fields for user ID and total. We definitely want to remove those. The user ID should be automatic and the total certainly should be automatic. I don't think we're going to let the user specify how much they'd like to pay us. The other fields are basically, we can add a little validation to them, change the labels a bit. We're not setting this up where we have separate addresses for billing and shipping. That's too much work for us. So for now, you get one address. That's the billing, that's the shipping address. So we'll make a few changes to this when we come back. Okay, I'll push what we've done so far in case you need anything